Organizations continue to navigate the disruptions, acceleration, and cross-currents spurred by the COVID-19 pandemic and the changing economic conditions. The one clear development is that we are now living and working in a digital-first world. By the end of 2022, at least 65% of the Asia-Pacific economies will be based on or influenced by digital. And 86% of APJ organizations today are already prioritizing investments in digital tools to create the capabilities essential to succeed in a digital-first economy. And by 2024, 67% of all ICT investments will be linked to digital transformation. Modernization is a must in today's change world, and the pace of transformation will depend on an enterprise's current capability, its competitive landscape, and the benchmark it sets to achieve beyond 2022. In this final episode, I have here Abdul Razak, Vice President of Solution Engineering at Google Cloud, to represent the company as both partner and customer of SAP. Welcome, Abdul.
Thank you, Sandra. Happy to be here.
Okay, so let's start with the first question. My understanding is that Alphabet, the parent company of Google, embarked on a transformation program with SAP. Can you just please share what is this transformation program all about, the business outcomes it is meant to achieve, and where is the company on the journey today?
Yeah, absolutely. So Alphabet embarked on a finance transformation program sometime in the mid-2018. And our goal was to innovate business processes that support specifically the customer-facing side of the business. Ruth, our CFO, had made her intentions clear at the start of the program, and it was twofold. One was business operations efficiency, and the second was to get ahead of Alphabet's growth trajectory in terms of making sure that we had the systems to support the growth. If you roll the clock back in 2004, Alphabet was about a $3 billion business. We had one business model, which was ads. Our international business was about 34%, and we had about 30 legal entities. Fast forward to today, we are about $180 billion business. We have multiple business models. We have many products that have over 10 billion in revenue, a few products that have over 5 billion in revenue. Our international footprint has increased to 53%, and we have over 120,000 employees, and we have over 700 legal entities, right? So that's sort of the scale at which our transformation went through. So the business processes that supported these finances systems were not integrated or standardized across, right? A lot of them were customized. In fact, we had over 80% of manual touch points. So our business goals were four. One was to deliver agility to support the growth of our new businesses and new business models. Second was to optimize business process flows. Third one was to use data as a strategic asset. Google is known for the data, and that's what we continue to evolve against, and ensure that these systems have the level of security and compliance for any new solutions that come into place. And we are almost at the end of our journey in terms of putting this new system in place. The last one will go live beginning of 2022, and we are seeing the benefits that we had planned for at the beginning of 2018.
Well, obviously, that's a big transformation and certainly a big jump if you look at your business and the growth all over the world. So our research actually shows that technical debt has long been a challenge for CIOs and their business partners, including obviously the CFOs, because they are burdened by legacy systems and applications, and you talk about that, right? And which was why Alphabet and Google embarked on this particular journey. Now, one of the predictions that we are making is by 2025, 75% of CIOs and their CFOs in the APAC region will be forced to accelerate formal technical debt management practices due to project delays or failures caused by unresolved technical debt. In an increasingly digital-centric world, these needs to be tackled with urgency. And so it's great to hear that Alphabet is one such organization that has embarked on the journey to take your business to the next level. So let's move on to the next portion is, you talked a little bit about this financial transformation that you have undertook, and you're going to go, like you say, the last leg live in the beginning of 2022. Maybe we go a little bit deeper into what was the adoption strategy, what was the program scope, and where it delivers the biggest impact to date.
Yeah. As you know, we were on an Oracle EBS system, and we moved to SAP S4. So we did that across 8 program pillars. The first one was treasury. The second one was IT asset management, core general ledger, subledger, procure to pay, which is both buying and procurement, hardware, payroll, order to cash. So those were the pillars. And we've constantly, from 2018, we have always kept up to date on the releases, right? I think we've had over 15 major releases that we have updated. Our approach was primarily to more or less fit to standard, right? If you remember, 80% of our landscape was custom, so we overcorrected against that, and we stuck to standard. So the 3 principles we went after was we had a single SAP instance for all finance and partner business units. Where we ended up was 94% of our functionality was out of the box, so that we have a tight system integration to peripheral systems. And then we reduce the reliance on custom solutions whenever possible. Of course, we have some in the back office, but we've reduced it to a drastic extent, right? And so that was from a principal perspective. Those were the 3 standard things that we embarked on. And then we looked at, from an end-to-end perspective, what would be the improvement across the pieces. So the first area was, we had a dedicated business planning team to ensure that the design compliance was right. There was a gating in order to approve the design decisions to make sure the data efficiency is captured. Second is, we had standard taxonomies so that best practices are followed, so that, consistencies across the functional areas. Then, of course, we tried to get a system that covered all the things, but still there are gaps. So we plugged in third-party systems to support any gaps that we have, for example, in external reporting and things of that nature. And then what we did was we had deep partnership with SAP, where we co-innovated in certain areas, for example, in treasury, on financial closing, on Ariba for procurement functions. So with those things, what we believe we have achieved is an intelligent finance systems, which enables us to have a more or less a touchless close throughout the period. We enabled our users so that they can do these things self-service, for example, in analytics. And what we do is we have our BigQuery data warehouse, which is where we do most of our financial and operational analytics. And then we have, what we augment that with, machine learning and forecasting, automated forecasting and things of that nature, which makes the consumptions of these systems more seamless and efficient. We actually, in fact, started closing our books on this new SAP system starting off Q4 2020. It was sort of bittersweet, right? Which is, in Q1 of 2021 is when we put out the cloud as a separate business unit, and that close was actually happening on an SAP system.
Fantastic. I think if you think about in this digital first world, what is really critical are a number of things that you mentioned, right? Firstly is at the front end, users and customers want personalizations. They want to be able to engage. But at the back end, you need that, standardization, that industrialization, right? Which is what you talk about, kind of moving largely from custom to kind of out of the box features and functionalities. I think that's a very critical element when it comes to particularly such a large transformation program. And then the second thing that you talk about is really about integration, right? I think integration, this is one of the hottest areas, When we talk to CIOs, particularly and their CTOs, integration is just one of the challenging areas and one of the high priority areas within the organizations to be able to scale. And then the third element that I thought was really good and was really kind of alignment with the digital first world is about self-service, right? That's really critical in terms of kind of user experience, in terms of simplicity, and particularly we talk about remote work, self-service is so critical for many employees, not only within Alphabet, but just kind of a lot of the organizations out there. So spot on in terms of kind of what you highlighted. So that's great. Let's move on to kind of a very important and critical topic, just based on our conversations with technology buyers and customers out there. Change management. It is often, highlighted as a challenging area to tackle because it has technology and non-technology elements. Obviously, people and processes are part of change management. So, can you just please share Alphabet's experience and what lessons did you take away from it?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. And then we always underestimate change management, right? That's the hardest part in any transformation. Like I mentioned, right at the beginning, the goal of the program was to support the scale of Alphabet's business going forward. And when you look at that, very few companies have achieved a back office that can scale to any size of the business without growing proportionately, right? So if you look at re-engineering Alphabet's business focused on building an infrastructure streamlined for speed and efficiency, so we used the process integration and automation as key pillars of doing that, right? And organizational design was centered more on centralized expertise and services to support the business units, allowing the business units to focus on growth and innovation. So as I mentioned earlier, our approach was to stick to standard as much as possible. So that way, we have a tight integration that gave the ability for the business units to have a dedicated team. And then from a centralized perspective, like I mentioned, the business planning review team focused on ensuring that the design compliance and enabling was fit to standard. And there were three areas where we focused on, right? One was refinement of the re-engineered processes to fully achieve the benefits that we embarked on. Second was for the organization to be aligned to leverage the new processes for the scale and of the specialized services that they're embarking on. And third one was innovation and augmentation of intelligence that in these business processes, like I mentioned, right, machine learning, ability to do automated forecasting and things of that nature, right? So those are three principles that we followed from a change management perspective. And then what we looked at when we looked at SAP's capabilities, there are multiple areas where we could augment Google's platforms, tools, and expertise so that the overall benefit from deploying such a system was we were able to do that. So to harmonize SAP with Google's infrastructure and solutions, our corporate engineering team or IT team, we invested a bunch of functional requirements with SAP, jointly focusing with SAP, and the partnership between SAP and Alphabet grew significantly, where we were able to gain synergies from these improved applications, infrastructure, and those were productionized, and we were able to derive a lot of benefits. The other area where we had significant focus on was in terms of user experience, right? A lot of people confuse UI to UX, right? So when I say UX, it's an end state where it's a combination of SAP, Google developed solutions, and third-party solutions, where we built multimodal experiences. So that from an end user perspective, it's a consistent end-to-end experience for our end users across SAP and non-SAP solutions. So the scope of our user experience was in 6 areas, right? One was, obviously search capabilities across functions and data types, for example, documents, transactions, helps, and so on and so forth. I mentioned self-service for reporting, inquiries, questions, navigation, FAQs, and things of that nature. Intelligent assistance for issue resolution, navigation, status reporting, and things of that nature. And then since we operated in multiple countries, like reporting and analysis tools with natural language processing for local language, then augmented decision support for impact analysis for any sort of predictive decisioning, and then finally, because there are multiple units, collaboration tools for organization alignment. So, for example, when we do month-end closes, right, how does it all come together? So those are 6 areas that we had exclusive focus on as we went through the program to ensure that nothing was lost in the cracks, and we focused on change management. One thing it would be remiss on me to not to mention is we did this all, part of the program was during the pandemic, right? So, for example, all the processes that went live in 2021, early 2021, all this happened during the pandemic. That added an additional challenge in terms of change management and operational. But we are proud to say that we were able to get through that and not miss a lot of deadlines or cause any disruption to the business.
Well, that only demonstrates that you're truly digital first, right? So that you could do this remotely and when not everybody is kind of in the same place at the same time. So in our research and also talking to kind of thousands of CIOs and line of business in Asia Pacific and around the world, there are kind of 9 key technology building blocks of a digital first enterprise. And some of what you just said, your experiences with this transformation program are very much aligned. And just kind of in the interest of time, I thought I'll just call out kind of 2 specific areas. First, it's around what we call business value first. And that means this is really about embedding kind of intelligence or enterprise intelligence initiatives into kind of processes so that it's domain specific, is purpose built for business. I think you talked extensively about that, which is really, really critical, right? Bringing the intelligence element, and of all people, Alphabet and Google, you've got to be good at doing this, I would imagine. The second is it's really about edge data first, right? Because you get to so many different operations, you get to the front line, and you talk about the pandemic. This is really critical, right? To empower people to make decisions quick. So one of the key predictions that we are making is by 2024, 55% of the top 2,000 kind of Asia-Pac-based organizations will embed edge-first data as more intelligence and insights at the front line and in branches, and these will be needed to ensure the employees are empowered, engaged, and they can make faster decisions. And as you mentioned, in the earlier response, self-service is such a critical part of this particular change. So let's just wrap this up with the final kind of closing session. You did a great job in kind of elaborating on the transformation journey and some of the key elements that the listeners and people watching this video should be paying attention, for just some of the things that they can obviously learn from. But I want to kind of go a little bit, kind of deeper, and we didn't really touch on that in the earlier questions, is to understand everything that you have said and the experiences with this transformation program, how they may apply to customers looking, to the SAP on Google Cloud kind of portfolio. How would this particular partnership between SAP and Google Cloud enable the customers to become market leaders in a digital first world?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So like what we have done is we have sort of codified all the lessons learned that we have learned during our own business transformation into something that our customers can consume. And I'll there are a few areas. I'll highlight a few of them in what customers can expect or customers can take advantage of it. They largely fall into obviously, analytics is our DNA. Data and analytics is our DNA. So that's the first one, right? Where for SAP workloads running on Google Cloud, we provide a near real-time replication of data from SAP system, SAP HANA into BigQuery. For example, in Alphabet, we have our finance system obviously on SAP. Our sales system is in Salesforce, and our HR system is in Workday. And when we do consolidation, we pump all that data into BigQuery, and we do analytics on top of that. I'll give you a few examples of where what we have done. Right, we were able to cut reporting from 400 financial reports by a factor of 40. Using intuitive self-service, you mentioned that, right? Self-service becomes a key part in deriving efficiency and empowering users and things of that. So one is around analytics, right? The second thing is around, intelligence, more around chatbots and intelligent assistants that provide better collaboration and support. So we have infused AI and ML algorithms that can be incorporated into the process flows by extending the SDK that SAP has. And so our finance team are able to do a much better period and close using chatbots by just conversing with the system, right? Instead of having multiple buttons and so on and so forth. And the last piece in the analytics AI ML space is, like I mentioned earlier, right? We use natural language processing heavily because in a lot of cases there are local reporting needs and having predictive forecasting, automated supplier accruals, and things of that nature. So that's one bucket, right, which is around data and analytics. The second bucket is around, business processes, which is, for example, in our case, what we did was we delivered major enhancement for treasury. So, for example, when we do hedge accounting or bank e-commerce or trade management, for financing, when we do cash accounting and asset management enhancement. So all these things have been codified. The third area is more around the integration with Google Cloud. So what we have done is, all the lessons that we have learned in terms of bringing, connectors for real-time replications from HANA to BigQuery or ECC to BigQuery or smart data integration, or, we use SAP's middleware around, process integration and SAP Gateway. So we've built where, these things are at a level where it is scaling. So one example is we have a connector that can push through 25,000 records per second, right? And so it becomes near real time for people to do inbuilt analytics and things of that nature. The fourth area is around IT operations, right? So in any large, complex landscape, when you integrate multiple layers between SAP and Google Cloud, you need, this has led to a better auto scaling and availability improvements, right? So what we have done is we have ability to provision workloads quickly, one-click provisioning. We provide infrastructure as code, operational automation. Another thing that you always end up is when you have mission critical systems, downtime becomes a big factor, right? So we have worked towards a near zero downtime goal. And even when doing migration, we have created components like live migration. So when a system is being migrated, it doesn't have to really go down. Restart times and things of that nature have been enhanced. Another area, the fifth area that we've looked at is more around the performance and TCO reduction of the systems, right? Whether it's the SAP middleware, where we have made significant improvements with SAP's Gateway, Process Orchestrator, and things of that nature. One other critical area that we've worked on is improved uptime, and a lot of our customers have actually already taken advantage of this, right? So, for example, when you have an availability optimization, it reduces the downtimes and it provides one of the most impactful savings for customers. I mentioned live migration earlier. So with this, what happens is it gives an improved business continuity which is critical for SAP customers. And the way Google's network and HA capabilities are set up, this enables SAP workloads running on Google Cloud to have 4.9 SLAs, or for the VMs that host SAP workloads. And then finally, on operational aspects, right, which is, whenever you have migration, change, or release, where we have built Google's replication tools, and we've coupled that with a project that we called Atlas, where we use it as an orchestrator in order to do seamless integration into the different Google products, and making sure that these systems perform in a very efficient way. So those are some of the areas. Just to summarize, we've done innovations on infrastructure, obviously on data and analytics, AI and ML, on the middleware part, on the connectors between SAP and Google data technologies around development experiences, and then infusing the processes with machine learning. So those are some areas that customers can look at, what we have done as part of our transformation. We've codified that and released that into customers where they can take advantage of.
Fantastic. One of the things that customers always look for is if the technology partners that they work with, they drink their own champagne, right? To your point, right? You kind of learn the lessons and you kind of simplified it, or at least you learn those takeaways and be able to create a better version for your customers and be able to kind of customize for them. So that's really fantastic. So thank you so much for kind of the deep dive sharing, Abdul. Really, really, a good job as you kind of walk us through the transformation program.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to share. Thank you for allowing me to share some of our experience that we had with you. We really appreciate the opportunity, and hopefully continue to look forward to multiple conversations around this topic.
Fantastic. So it's great, everyone to close this series with Alphabet's kind of internet experiences and what they mean to the business, and how Google and SAP partnership can help to deliver the next wave of capabilities for organizations across the region. Now, digital starters prior to COVID-19 are becoming digital first. In fact, our research showed that 60% of all APJ organizations are today digital first accelerators, and 95% of this pool were digital starters in 2019. So that's a significant kind of progression over the last 18 months or so. Digital first enterprises are future enterprises. Future enterprises are market leaders with the following characteristics. They are agile, resilient, innovative, ethical, and trustworthy. They deliver products, services, and experiences that are experiential and purposeful. They empower their employees and build a sustainable value chain with their ecosystem partners. To become market leaders of tomorrow, organizations must commit to driving their business and operating models to be truly digital first. Now, with that, I thank you for watching this SAP, Google Cloud, and IDC Executive Partnership channel, Digital First Outcomes in a Changed World.